Hello, everybody. I hope you are all having a fantastic Tuesday, and I hope you're all doing amazing. This is the 39th episode, and it's titled Kayla Stannard. She is amazing. I really have been super excited to get her on the podcast and whatnot. There's so much I'm going to say about her, but before I dive into the juicy stuff, I always have to give you guys, the announcements and the fun facts or whatever. So, announcements. First thing is, you all have already seen last week I released the low battery shirt. So today I'm releasing the second shirt, and that one's all about like nature, creation, destruction, stuff that we normally do in our daily lives. You got to check out the shirt, and if you're already part of the email list, then you've already seen it. And if you haven't, I'm sorry, but you guys got to check that out. I'm going to leave a link and all of that stuff in the podcast information, I guess. And then I would like to share this fun fact with you guys. And I actually had to send this one to Kayla so you guys didn't think it was just me. So, I had to, prepare myself. But the fun fact, always keep in mind, no matter how bad you might feel, you'll never be as ugly as the world's ugliest animal, and it's called the blobfish. Now, I first seen this animal, and I thought I immediately was disgusted a little bit. I kind of thought, oh, this is a joke, but a person held that, and me personally, I just felt like my soul would escape out of his body if I touched that thing, but that's just me. But yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to invite Kayla to speak, but before she does, I want you guys to know. Let me build it up for you. Let me build it up, because this isn't just a regular person. This isn't a regular individual. So let me just say this: Kayla is, number one, she's amazing, right? Kayla is super, super cool, and I've been talking to a few of you guys about her, about how amazing she is, at the age she is as well, and the stuff that she does. And she's a podcaster as well, amongst other things, which I'm going to let her tell it to you because she knows herself better than me. And she's super funny. And one of the biggest reasons why I wanted Kayla to be on an episode is because Kayla's podcast is like her podcast, and what she does, she's just for the people. And you'll see like more of what I'm saying. But again, Kayla is amazing. So whatever you're doing, you're probably on your way to work by now. You're probably just getting off of work, or I don't know, you probably just got done like yelling at your dog or cat or child about something. So sit back, relax. If you can't sit back, stand and look cute and listen, whatever you got to do. And we're going to get this started. So that being said, welcome to the podcast, Kayla. I greatly appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for everything you said. So excited to be on here.
But of course. By the way, that blobfish, you've seen it. What are your thoughts on
it? It's interesting. It's definitely not that beautiful. But, it still has it has cute eyes,
It did? Maybe I didn't look that hard because I couldn't do it after the lips.
I know. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. I don't know if
There's
I want
a lot going on.
It is. It's
okay,
too much going on.
I know. It's a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I can handle that. But that's just me. But okay. So as everybody knows, with Connect 007, the podcast is all about the human connection. That's where we're at.
Sure.
And I want everyone to get to know you, Kayla. So who are you? What do you do? Things like that. Take the floor. Sorry.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kayla. I live in Vermont. I'm 20. And I started a podcast in July 2018. I had come from a pretty rough year in 2017 with my mental health. And then I actually ended up breaking my leg pretty severely at the beginning of 2018. And I was in a pretty bad cyclical pattern of just victimizing myself. I just really was not happy. And I decided, instead of, just continuing along this journey of victimization and feeling sorry for myself and being in pain mentally and physically, I decided to grow and to change myself. And so I started taking strides and reading and going into these little groups and changing my life. And I decided to curate this pragmatic formula to growth. And I took my own advice, or as they say, I ate my own dog food. And a big part of growth is documentation. And I started documenting my journey. And I decided I'm just going to share this with the world and see if, anybody else, wants to join my journey and hear about it and maybe change their own life. And my podcast started taking off, and I realized it could be more. And so now I'm in the process and the journey of building a mental wellness consulting firm, which I would be calling TAE, which is an acronym for the Awakening Empire, which is really just to awaken and empower humanity to recognize the need and the inevitability of personal growth and change and evolution. Because I think in the modern age, there are millions of humans who have no idea who they are or how to love themselves, and they don't know how to create a mental, emotional connection with themselves that's healthy, that's sustainable. And so TAE is really dedicated to ensuring that in humanity, people learn how to be mentally and emotionally equipped to manage the hardships and the stressors of their life in a powerful, simplistic, and tangible way. So that's really what we try to do. And that's just my journey right now. That's what I think I'm really called to do. And that's what I feel super passionate about.
You see, guys, you gotta understand this. Kayla is like, I'm telling you, she's amazing. Like, there's so much more we're about to get to do with this podcast. Like, just that alone. Mind you, that she's 20, guys. She's 20. So she's doing all of this. So you just know this. And like I said, she's for the people. But I would like, again, amazing. So I'm going to. I want us. Okay, let's. We're gonna go everywhere for a little bit with this. So
Sure.
let's talk about the emotional health of people, because I love that, and and you're actually gonna make me sound sane, because it's funny, because when I meet people, and there's some people I meet, they're pretty attractive. And I'm like, oh, she's beautiful and whatnot. And, I have some friends, they'll say, oh, well, why don't you date her? I'm like, nah, her emotional space isn't there. They're like, what do you mean?
Right, yeah.
Oh, her emotional is just not there. So instead of them hearing it from me, what are your thoughts on just like where people are, like what you've encountered, where people are like today, just with that whole emotional space? Like, what does it look like when it's not healthy? What are the signs? What do you experience? Things like that.
Emotional intelligence is, as I said, it's absolutely crucial for our contemporary world. And when I notice emotional intelligence is incredibly lacking, because I was that person. I had a huge lack of emotional intelligence. And so the first sign that I typically pick up on the most is people feeding the compulsions of distractions, like those voids in ourselves when things are hard. I typically find people filling those voids with things that are just not healthy. They're not sustainable, whether that's like, going out every single night, or drinking, or doing, engaging in substances, and just like filling a void with anything else but really becoming self-aware and trying to change themselves in a healthy way. Another thing I find with people with, lack of emotional intelligence is their lack of perspective on life, their lack of gratitude. When people's complaints are very heightened, when their speech is negative in all things, like they're alive, which is a blessing in and of itself, when they wake up and they, like, I have friends that will text me and they'll go, oh, I just don't want to do anything today. I hate my life. This sucks. I don't want to be awake right now. It's like, there's someone in the world who just like took their last breath, and you're complaining that you just are welcome to take your first one for the day. And so definitely a lack of perspective, a lack of gratitude, feeding compulsions of distractions, and just, of course, this overall sense of just being not self-aware, not knowing who they are, not having a sense of their own identity, and extremely insecure, and feed off of the measure that other people measure their worth on. They have no sense of their own value. They don't know how competent they are. They don't feel courageous. They don't feel capable. Those are really very obvious things to me when I see a lack of emotional intelligence and health, is just those key things in the mind that are super important to have as you go throughout this life, especially as you get older. They're so important. And I notice the more people neglect these things in their youth and, early 20s, early 30s, the more people neglect helping themselves in their journey and their process in life, the worse it becomes and the harder it is to break those instilled habits. So those are really the things that I pick up on the most.
Awesome. And you said a lot of powerful things. So guys, I'm not crazy. You heard it from someone else. So, okay. So we recognize the issues and the problems that they have. So let's just say, before I even say that, what would you say would be some solutions to help a person who let me say this, let me slow down when I say this, who decided themselves that they want to change. Let me say that because you can't help a person who doesn't want to be helped. So,
of course,
a person, at the complete beginning says, you know what, Kayla, my emotional intelligence, it's shitty right now. And sorry, I'm cussing, I'm drinking water. I blame my friend Kyle. I'm calling his name out. But anyways, I'm so my emotional intelligence right now is just, it sucks. And I would like to do better, Kayla, but I don't know where to start. And I'm noticing that because my emotional intelligence is lacking, I'm not aware, it's causing the issues that has been going on. So what would you say to me if I was
the pragmatic formula to growth is really based on the first step is identification. And so you really need to start the process of identifying who you are in reality. So not putting up a mask, not pretending anymore, not being authentic and having integrity. And that's identifying your strengths and your weaknesses and your reactions to things, and picking up on your patterns of how you behave and how you react in certain situations. Are you an envious person? Are you easily angered? Are you very heightenedly jealous of other people? Are you have to go through this process. You have to ask yourself some really hard questions, and a lot of times people just aren't willing to be that honest with themselves. And so the only way to begin this process is through identification and becoming aware of who you actually are, because the more you start identifying those real answers to those questions that you have to ask yourself, and being willing to answer with humility, and it's hard, because when you finally get to those real answers, you start going more and more profound, and you start seeing there's root causes of why you are the way you are. And a really difficult thing that people go through is realizing, oh crap, who I thought I was, I am actually not even close to the person I thought I was. A lot of people think they're really kind and really nice and really selfless and not jealous at all. People think very highly of themselves. And when they start asking themselves questions that are very real, they're very simple questions, but they're very profound when you begin to unpack them slowly. And that first step is really hard, but once you get there, you discover this hard reality for many people, but it's that you're not really who you thought you were, and you have a lot of growth to go through. And it is hard, but it's really important, that first step. And a lot of people are like, because people message me all the time, like, how do I start growing? You talk about this growth journey, but how did you begin? And people don't love the answer of identification and really getting to know themselves.
Yeah.
But sometimes the best solutions are the most simple at superficial layer, but the execution is very difficult because they realize once they start getting in, oh, this is actually a lot harder than I thought. And I'm being asked to be very vulnerable with myself. A lot of people avoid vulnerability because it's hard. Nobody wants to discover that who they thought they've been, who they thought they were for so long is actually not who they are at all. But that process of identification is huge. It's everything. And it's super important to get to your center. And, Joseph Campbell, I believe the quote is, he said, there's a center of quietness within, which has to be known and has to be held. And the minute that you lose that center, you are in tension and you start to fall apart. And, the center doesn't really have a location, but, there are like physical regions associated, but it's more of a dynamic point of psychic equilibrium, and they call it like your inner balance. And so when you're at the center, there's no resistance. Everything is. So you're alive, you're alert, you're active, and your inner tranquility prevails pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to get to that center, find that center. And, I think another thing is when you're trying to really figure out who you are, you want to get to an alpha state of your mind, which is where you're the most calm, you're the most relaxed. And mindfulness, which is really where you're going to discover the authenticity of these answers, is really important because mindfulness is that form of kind of an observational meditation where, those meditators who are in those states will place their awareness on a focal point. Mm-hmm. And this can be the breath of the breathing or our thoughts. And so I think a really effective thing is if you're going to ask yourself these questions, you want to be in an observational meditation state and you want to be in an alpha state so that as you develop this observing self, you can become more self-aware because it is the key to developing self-awareness. Mm-hmm. This observing mind is absolutely essential. And when we activate it, we actually gain a huge perspective on our life experiences. And we come to understand who we are, why we are the way we are, but more importantly, especially for growth and people who are saying, how do I become emotionally intelligent, is how do I become who I really want to be and who I know that I can. And that's a huge thing that we have to do. And it's a long process. I know it sounds like it might seem pretty short, but I think my identification process took me, I think probably the longest part because I would back away because you start becoming vulnerable to yourself and you're like, wait, I'm starting to dig up things that I suppressed and I'm not going to be dealing with them. But if you don't deal with those, you're going to lose. You're going to keep losing and it's going to keep knocking, right? And because it knows it's present now, it knows that you've identified it. So you just need to keep going and you just need to do it because it's an overall analysis of who you are, who you want to be. I mean, you can get that clear understanding of who you are and you go through that audit. You can use metacognition, introspection, and then you can begin using and enduring paradigm shifts, which is really the goal. So then you can start changing your inner dialogue and all these other things. But I mean, that's obviously down the line, but identification is huge. Again, people don't like that answer because it's simple, but they find that it's actually very difficult.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. You hit so many nails on the head. And I want to say, okay, so two things. The first one being is like when you said an amazing part two, all of it was amazing. One of the amazing things was the center, and that's like very powerful. So if anyone kind of missed that part, like the center is super important because that's something that to this day, that's how I can be who the heck I am. Because without my center, I am nothing. Everyone says I'm cool, calm, and collected, but I'm like, you just don't know. Like without
Yeah.
it's so. But there's, like you said, there's a process to get to that. And
Oh yeah, it's difficult, but it's hard, and but it's beautiful, when you get there. I think another thing too is like about the center is that you don't feel happy or sad in the center. You're not positive or negative. You're just neutral. You just are, right? It's just you're just calm. You know who you are, and you're there, and you're put together. You're whole when you're at the center. It doesn't mean everything's perfect or solved or wonderful. It just means that you know who you are, and you're comfortable in that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to do something I've never done on a podcast. So we're going to do something a little interesting here. We're going to test Kayla's consulting skills here a little bit. So
oh God.
I know, right? So get ready. So we're going to pretend that I am the old dad, and some people who know me really well know what that means. But so if I'm coming to you,
Yep.
As a consultant, and I'm the old dad. Basically, the old dad is that person who was, who is, and I'm pretending. I am pretty heartless.
Okay.
Really wanted to get rid of my emotions. I hated them, and I decided, I finally got to a point where I got rid of my emotions, and I did it. So
you became numb to yourself.
I became very numb.
Okay.
And I feel that emotions are weak, and having emotions be weak. So that being said, now with emotional intelligence, everything we just talked about. That being said, I'm coming.
Yep.
I'm at your doorstep. Okay, Kayla, what should I do? We're gonna kind of do this a little exercise. So
right.
Be the first step, and I'm gonna answer you asked me a question, and I'm just gonna answer them completely openly, as if we're at our consulting spot, and then being recorded. So okay, so boom, I'm here, I'm talking to you. This is what's going on with me.
Sure. So I think the first thing I would say is what's really hurting you at this moment.
Okay, so I would say that what's really hurting me is that when I display emotions or whatnot, I feel vulnerable, and I don't like feeling vulnerable, especially being a male. I was taught that I'm supposed to suck stuff up. So when I display emotions as a male, that shows vulnerability and weakness. And also, I don't want people to look down on me and think that, I'm weak. So that is why, that's what's actually going on. So
So what was a time that you can recall where you did express that vulnerability, and what happened when you expressed that vulnerability? Is that moment in your life that happened when you expressed those emotions? Was that a time where you were shot down, you were made to feel insecure, people were really critical of you? What happened? When was the last time you can recall that you were expressing vulnerability, and did it backfire on you? Did it make you feel weak because of other people? What was that experience like for you?
Okay, so a few times, one, my upbringing, so I didn't have a father figure, but my mom, raising an only child and a boy, when I had
so you felt like you needed to be that dominant male figure?
I honestly didn't even know what figure to be. I just knew my mom would say, suck it up, if you're going through stuff. And there was also time for vulnerability, but that was the upbringing part. But the moment where I did display the emotions would be when talking to other family members and a friend. I remember that, hey, this made me, something happened and it made me sad a little bit, and I communicated, hey, that makes me feel sad, I don't like that. And this individual pretty much said, you're a man, you're a boy, suck that shit up, you're supposed to do all of that. So that was the first, and then I would go to school, obviously school stuff, school. Anyways, school, and I would witness other boys crying because someone's picking on them, and I witnessed how they treated him. And I was like, oh, hell no, I refuse. So those were my experiences, a little bit of all of that. Yeah.
Right. So it seems like you were being shot down every time you tried to express that emotion. And so
Mhm.
what did that make you feel like when your emotions were being shot down? Did you feel like, darn it, like I can never be emotional? Or like what were you feeling in those moments?
I felt hurt, and it was a hurt. It was definitely hurt. I felt that I couldn't be vulnerable, and
Yeah.
because of that, I had decided that we're not going to do this emotion games no more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were growing up, did you have those moments in your life where somebody around you was able to be vulnerable in the home? Did you see, or were you witness to anybody in your home having emotions and not being like, because in a lot of times when people are like they're about to cry, especially in public, like Ariana Grande posted this, she was in this video and she started to cry on stage and she goes, oh my God, this is so stupid, I can't believe I'm crying. A lot of people do that because people are afraid of emotions. Like, you're not alone in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important that you're coming here and identifying that and being aware of that, right? Self-awareness is so important, because when we're talking about self-awareness, we're talking about the evaluation and the observation and the self-audit of ourselves to recognize those patterns of our behavior and our reactions and our actions. And the more we identify these things about ourselves, we can begin recognizing the difference. Again, as I said earlier before our big
Mm-hmm.
conference, was as we identify these things, we realize who we think we are. And in this case, you're coming to me saying, I'm unable to feel emotions because I've been shot down every time I try to. I've been made to feel men don't cry and men don't feel emotions. We tough it up, we suck it up, and we keep moving. But it's important that you start to align yourself in the direction you want to go in. So do you really want to feel these emotions, and why do you want to feel these emotions? Why do you think that feeling these emotions is going to help you allude to the best version of yourself? What is the reason you want to find those emotions again? Because this is about you. This is your journey. So it's important that you recognize why you want to and why you feel the need for emotions.
Okay, so I'm in the part of my life now where, okay, fast forward here. Okay, I'm in the part of my life now where I have to start working with people. I'm getting into business, and
Okay.
I, I had this past of like not really, exploring emotions, but I'm seeing that now that I am starting this business venture and I'm having to be responsible and connect with people.
Yep.
I kind of don't like people at this moment, and
Sure.
I'm realizing that I can't move forward unless I fix this.
Yeah.
So I feel as though I should have those emotions back so it could help me become a better version of myself and for
Definitely.
business. So that is
Right.
why. Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, that's bold of you to be aware of that and want that. Be right. The first step to growth is to want the growth, right? Because if you didn't want that, all I can do is make you think. I can't make you do anything. So it's great that you have those abilities and those desires.
Mhm.
Now I would say, because you are identifying that this is who I am, this is why I am who I am. Of course, there's more root and you would get more into it. But and you've identified who you want to be, the only thing you can do now is to get started and to practice and to throw yourself into a life where you need to start feeling these emotions. And so what I would say is, as I was saying in my introduction, documentation is such an essential part of growth. And the thing that you need to do to begin this step of growth is going through and making a complex series, a questionnaire, which I would probably provide for a client is, or what my team would help, provide for this client is coming up with questions that could be documented on a daily basis. And so those questions would consist of, what is one thing I can do today to show my emotion? What is one thing that I can say to somebody to show my vulnerability? Or what, or even, and do that. And then at the end of the day as well, come back to that and answer a question like, what happened when I showed even the slightest bit of emotion today? What did I feel? Did I still feel sad? Did I still feel mad or feel numb to those emotions? But you have to try, and you have to get out there and show someone some kind of emotion, or at least at the slightest be a little vulnerable, or be a little sympathetic to somebody else, or show that affection to someone else, to off-put that on yourself. So I would say to you, what do you think is something that you can do tomorrow? You have to ignite, you have to get started, you have to take that leap of faith and just do it. So I would say to you, what is one thing that you think that you can do tomorrow to begin showing that process of emotion? What do you think? What do you think you could do to start that process of growth in a very real form of execution?
Okay, so I feel as though, really thinking about this, I think the first thing I can do is actually be open to emotions, number one, and then two, I would say be open to listening to others people's emotional stuff, and trying to help
Absolutely.
them the best way I can by showing as hard as I can empathy and that I care. So
yeah, empathy is huge.
okay, so that would be my except I love this, Kayla. This is awesome. This is awesome. I love it. You are a round of applause. Round of applause. I wanted to do is like exercise just to like for people, because we talked about it. But I like to, because I know some people, they hear stuff and they're like, oh, I got a question, but I wanted them to like experience like, okay,
right,
what do you do? Like, this is what happened. This is like, and just like how you asked the questions, you shared your experience, your knowledge, you gave things to do like daily, and just asking those questions. And
questionnaire is essential. Again, it's a simple solution, but it's when you get in there, when you start answering those questions on a daily basis, you're going to realize like, oh, this is actually not that easy. And I have to hold myself very accountable to this, because you're going to find when you start answering those questions that it's very real and it's very difficult, and you're going to have to maintain discipline, and discipline's like a whole other ball game, because it's that ability to have courage. And courage is not being fearless. Courage is being absolutely terrified and horrified and scared, but doing it anyway, because you know that you want to be emotional, you want to have that empathy, you want to be able to be someone who others can turn to, and you're actually going to listen, because we can all hear things, right? We can hear each other, but are we really listening to each other? Are you really getting something out of this? Are you processing and internalizing? And that's important. And discipline is a huge, I always say discipline is a heavy door to freedom, because it gives you the light. It's the lighthouse when you're voyaging in that dark. Like I said when we were talking, it's when you're in the darkest hole you've ever been, but you somehow find the light, because you decide, I don't want to live my one life. Like, it's such a game of perspective. This is your one life. You want to be able to hear people and care for others. And you can't do that when you don't even know yourself. Like, people always say you need to sacrifice, you need to submit, you need to be giving of other people, but you can't when you don't know yourself, when you hate yourself, when you can't even feel emotional towards yourself. How are you going to benefit another person's life? And I've always been for the people. I love to ensure that other people are well, and you can't do that if you don't love yourself. And I didn't. And I tried for the first 18 years of my life to please everybody. And like I told you that day, I hated myself in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I never was able to really connect with anybody. I really don't feel like I was able to really connect with anybody, because I couldn't even connect with myself. I would turn away from the mirror because I didn't even want to look at myself, because I knew how mentally distraught and hurt I was, because I gave into what everyone else wanted. And it pains me like just so much to know that for almost 2 decades, I lived for other people's approval, and I allowed other people to measure my worth. Like, that's so annoying to me.
Mhm.
And I just don't want anyone to ever have to do that, or at least never have to do that and not know how to get out of it. Because I think those dark times are, I think they're good for us. I think they've given me a lot of grit and tenacity. And I'm
Yeah,
sure you feel like the same way, like those dark moments gave you a lot of, stamina in your life now. But
for sure.
if you don't know how to get out of that, it's going to be a really hard life. And I don't think anybody deserves to live any longer not knowing who they are and how to get out of that darkness. And so if I can be the light for any one person, I would love to do that.
Yes, powerful. And you said so much, like all of that right there is powerful, like you said. And one of the things I think I was telling you last time we talked, one thing that I
Mm-hmm.
love is that you pretty much use like those, like all of that you just said, like those first 18, almost 2 decades of your life to
Yeah.
get through it, but also share with other people to help them, because there are a lot of people who are in your situation or have been in
Yeah.
your situation, and they may have not figured out a way to get out, and you're doing that. And then, vice
Yeah.
versa. I know there's people,
Mm-hmm.
I've met a lot of people who have been in my situation,
Oh
and
yeah.
just sharing like, okay, hey, this is what I went through, blah, blah, blah. And let me ask you, have you ever had that experience where you would connect with someone and they would tell you stuff about them and you just give them advice and you just pick up stuff and they think you're reading their mind? Like, that's
Yeah. Oh my God.
yeah.
So often.
Right? It's like your psychic is like, no, bro, I've been there. I can
No,
tell you what you're thinking.
I've been through the trenches. I get you. Like, I'm dealing with this right now with a close friend of mine, and she has no idea of her sense of worth. And she's like, I just, nobody understands. And I'm like, girl, you're literally talking to the person who hated herself for 18 years and went through this. Like, and I found the light, and I know you can too. And Gary Vaynerchuk said one time, if somebody who has been in your situation but conquered, then you can do it too. Adversity is not a limit. It's, you only create those limits. You bound yourself to your adversities, and you anchor yourself in what you think was restricting you from prosperity. But it actually has nothing to do with that adversity. That adversity, like, don't weigh yourself down with the obstacles and the stones that are thrown at you. Use them to build you up. And I really believe that. And so when people come to me and they're like, this and this is going on and no one understands, I'm like, I do though. And a lot of people do, because this is real. This happens all the time. And that's, I mean, emotional intelligence is so low right now. I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, but it's so low. And there's so many powerful articles coming from these huge psychological businesses, and like Harvard Review and MIT, they're publishing articles about how EQ, which is emotional intelligence, may be even more valuable and important than IQ, because it's that ability to connect with yourself, again, getting at that center, and really changing your life for the better. Who cares if you're the smartest person in the world if you hate yourself? Like, what good are you going to do with that knowledge? What are you going to do that's going to do anything that's purposeful and allow you to love your life? I mean, that's, at the end of the day, again, it's a game of perspective. It's, how are you going to decide to use this life that you have? And I hope that people would use it to be, the most mentally strong they can and the most emotionally intelligent.
Very true. Very true. Because the most, literally, like you just hit the nail on the head. Like there's people who think they are, but it doesn't make it, like, what good is that if you don't like yourself, and then one, you can't connect with another person. So that's issue number one. And then another thing too is that we're emotional creatures. Like, I remember I had to
Right.
accept that, but we're emotional.
It must have been hard for you.
Right? That was hard. That was hard back then. But
I know.
like, we're emotional creatures, and one of the things too, like, just to give some people is, I'm glad I went through that whole stage of not having emotions because
Mm-hmm.
I learned the value of emotions. And for some people who may,
I'm so glad to hear that.
yeah, it's so many amazing things I've learned with comes
Yeah.
when it comes to emotions. And one of the things that I'm all about energy. So I learned
Mm-hmm.
like emotion is how they term it. Emotion stands for energy in motion. And one of the
Mm.
that was cool, right? I had to learn it. I was like, oh, um,
Yeah, that's awesome.
one of the things I learned was like how to actually use your emotions and not let them, just use you. Like some people, they may say, "Oh, I'm just emotional. I just can't
Right.
control it." It's like, no, no, honey, you can control it. Like you may
Oh
not
yeah, you have a lot more control than you think.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I learned like I could actually, when I was starting to experiment with the whole emotion stuff, I would use my emotions in creativity stuff. I would use it to get energy with things. I would use
Yep.
it to relate to a person, like for an example, someone could be, let's just say someone could be really, really depressed, right? And
Yep.
me at the level that I'm at now, I don't have it, but I was there at that point in time. So I can tap back into that emotion
Yep.
of or being depressed and like, you know what? Now when they communicate to me, it's like I'm on that level or I'm communicating at the level they're at, but what they're
Right.
feeling, and it's like I can understand them better. So it's just like when you embrace that emotions and the intelligence with the emotions with it, you can do some very, very powerful things. And
Yeah.
there is obviously, to everyone who's listening, obviously these are steps, and you should also know that me and her didn't. We're saying this, but me and her didn't just pop out and just, we had all the solutions. Like, no, we went through
Right.
a bunch of crap that we're probably not saying because you guys
Right.
get it,
This
but
has been a long journey, and
exactly.
it's still ongoing. You're never done. And I think, I told you this last time, but you never want to treat growth, you know, as something that has an end in sight, because
Right.
the minute that you say, oh, like in 2 years, I'll never have to grow again. No, once you establish that growth, it's a long lifetime commitment of maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never treat anything, whether that's your faith or your, um, your growth, or, even like losing weight, anything in life, the minute you commit to that journey, it is a lifetime, forever. It's like having a child. And you can't ever neglect it. You can't ever think it's something that you never will have to tend to again. In fact, the minute that becomes established is like you have to care for it even more, because if you let it slip, you're going to start ground zero again. So
Right.
it's really important that you keep up that maintenance and that discipline. Again, discipline is everything to me. And strengthening that prefrontal cortex in the brain is everything. So it's just important to know that we didn't get here easy. It's been a long journey, and it's not easy at all. Like I wish I don't wish it was,
Yeah.
but because it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be as beautiful if it was easy. I think some of the harder the times, the greater it is. The louder the thunder, typically the brighter the rainbow. And I love that, because I think that just shows you that it will be hard and it will be tough and you'll want to give up. And it's okay to have those bad days. Honor them.
Yeah.
Know they're real, and know that they're serving you in some way. And just kick back and get better and move on. Don't. The thing is, you can have as many bad days as you want. It just takes you to understand that you get the control, like you were saying. We have a lot more control than we think. It's just whatever mindset that you're dwelling in. And neuroplasticity is such a valuable thing that humans have, because it's our ability to change and to adapt to the world around us, which is really big key center into our environment. If your environment is poison, your your growth will be fatal, because you got to put yourself in an ecosystem to live and thrive and survive in. So you need, growth is just, it's so much accountability, it's so much perspective, and you have to set yourself in the right position to prosper. And I think that's the difference between those who succeed at it and those who don't. is that there's some people who set themselves up to thrive, and there's some who just do the bare minimum, and they'll never get to where they were supposed to be because they lack that stewardship and that discipline and that perspective.
Yes. Preach, Kayla, preach. You hitting, oh, gosh, you hitting some spots like how you, especially environment, because let's talk about environment, because so we blessed you guys with the emotional intelligence. You're welcome. So we're going to environment for a little bit, and then I want to get into the mental health. But I would like to say, okay, so thank you for saying environment. Now, so you will be the, let me see. 1, 2, they don't count. 1, 2, 3. There's one person to know, but now that everyone's listening to the podcast, God damn it, they're all gonna know too. So with my podcast, they know I'm all about exposing myself. Like, I will not expose other people unless they give me permission to.
Yep.
But I will always expose myself. So when you said environment, I want to talk about that, because I told you earlier, but I didn't give you the details. But I literally, can't believe I'm saying this publicly, but I literally just quit my job like yesterday.
I'm so excited.
Thank you. But this is the thing. Because I know some friends are like, you quit your job? It's like,
you did what?
Right? Because they're like, wait, are you prepared? I'm like, nope, I am not. I did not plan, because I legit, like, this was a long time coming, but I legit was saying that, you know what, maybe like, sometime around my birthday, because I want to have, I want to at least have a year's worth of income, in my bank account before I do this. So I was getting signs, meditation, intuition, spirit, all that. I was getting signs, but I didn't expect it to happen so fast, which is why I always laugh when I make plans, because I'm like, I know it's not going to go any type of way that I planned it out, but I know it's going to be better. So I'm going to do that. But I went to work this past weekend, because I used to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Friday I worked or whatever. Saturday it's been super busy, so it's been there hasn't been that many people. Like, we're short staffed pretty much, and it's only pretty much 2 servers that's running the restaurant, and there's one server that runs the restaurant upstairs. So there's 2 restaurants in the building, but so the pressure's been on us. So coworker, she got sick, and I had to work the whole restaurant like by myself. So obviously a lot of people, one server, you can imagine. But I handled it like a pro, and all those orders came out perfect.
Of course.
Like business, if you can do business
anyways,
right? So I did that, but what I noticed is that I felt very different, and I couldn't explain it. And when I say different is, I'm very aware of myself, but I had a few friends ask me that Saturday after work. They was like, how's it going? How are you? And I was like, I honestly don't know right now. They was like, what do you mean you don't know? I was like, I don't. It's weird. I really don't. Like, I'm not sad. I'm not mad. I just really don't know what it is. So I was like, okay. So I went home, skipping a bunch of stuff, went to sleep, felt fully rested, and then I was like, okay, it's a Sunday. If the coworker comes, then she's gonna come. But if not, I know it's gonna be ×2, like what I had. So I was just kind of like in this position. Like, I know what me and you, we know when it comes to attitudes and stuff like that. But it got to a point where I was tired of trying to keep this attitude, this positive attitude up, because I've been fighting to do it for so long. But the core of it was that I knew I am not meant to work for a person, and I knew that, and I was trying to fight it for the longest, and I know,
because it's a big responsibility,
It is, like, you're trying to balance.
Everything's on you, accountability is at full bar.
Yes, it is. So it's like, I'm trying to build a business and I'm trying to work here. And I know I'm not, I know in my soul that I'm not meant to be working for an individual, but I'm like telling myself, this is me, I have self-talk with myself. Okay, Thad, you can do that, but you quit, but bro, you have bills. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget you need to eat, survive, place. I'm like, yeah, I get that, right?
Let's not try to get ourselves homeless here.
Right? So I go to work, and it was weird that, because none of my every time I go to work, I'm always keep the professional. They don't need to know what's going on at home.
Right.
But one of the coworkers, he was cool. He was like, "Hey, he was like, everything okay with you?" I was like, I'm kind of looking like a little side to cock my head. I'm like, yeah, why? He was like,
well, yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah, he was like, I don't know, I don't know, he's like, you seem different. Like, are you mad? I was like, what? Oh, that's a bad one.
Why are you exposing me right now?
Right? Like, don't do this here. Like, but anyways, and I wasn't gonna lie. I couldn't lie.
No.
I was like, dude, honestly, it's just, I know I'm not meant to be working for a person, and it's really getting to me. But you know what? I'm gonna suck it up, do what I gotta do, because I know I gotta pay.
Yep.
So we're doing whatever we're doing. We're working. It starts to get busy. Now it's already been busy. So now there's 2 huge parties coming in that I have to, handle. But the coworker just came, and I could sense her energy, and I could sense she wasn't feeling it. I was like, oh fuck, I know how this is gonna go. And I was like telling myself, like, because it hit me. There we go. That was the second thing. It hit me right before they came. My another friend of mine, he lives at the place that I work at, because it's a condominium or whatever. But anyway, he was like, you good? I was like, yeah. He was like, I was like, to be honest, dude, I think I'm emotionally tired. I'm like, physically, I'm good, but however, right? However, I think I'm emotionally tired, and that's what I thought. And he was like, yeah, because you seem different today. You don't seem, like your normal stuff. I'm like, damn, this is bad. Like, 2 people in
like, everyone's exposing me right now.
Right? Everyone's exposing me. Like, might as well just take off all my clothes then, since y'all just right? So
here I am.
Right? In all my glory. So we continue to go on. And then that's when, that's when the people came, coworker came, and I sensed her. I was like, oh crap. It got busy. And I just felt like a bunch of swelling of energy in my chest. And I was just like, what the hell is
so powerful?
Right? Like, what the fuck is going on with me? So I was kind of like feeling like something. So I was like, okay, hey, I'll talk to the manager, like, hey, I'm going to be back in like 10 minutes. I'll be right back. I made sure my tables were good. I went to this, it's called the pool room, where they played pool or whatever, billiards, whatever. Yep. No one's ever in there. So I sat in there for 10 minutes, and I was like, what? Okay, and that's when I had to reflect, like, okay, Dad, what's going on? Like, what are you feeling? And I meditated, went inside, whatnot, and it was a picture of like my heart, and it was like my heart just went out, and not like physically, but like there was this flame that represents my heart, but it just went down to like barely.
Like you're killing yourself to be somewhere you just don't flourish anymore.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what it was. My heart just died there. Like at that day. It was like my heart's not in it, and I was like, God dang! And immediately, I knew what that meant. It came soon as it was like, it's time to go, and I was just like,
are you sure?
Right, Kayla, right? I'm saying,
man, I know it.
Because, and this is the thing. Like, I've known that I would eventually have to quit my job, but I didn't think I would have to this early, because I was all the signs. People were like, dude. Like, people were saying, I was working a job, but then I ended up quitting. Something told me to, or whatever. Things happened, and that's how they built their business. I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can do that, because I got bills. But
I know,
right? So I went to
risk is hard.
What is it? But here's the thing. I went back in there after my 10 minutes were up. I was gonna say 15, but I was like, nah, let me go back in there, because I left her by myself. Went back in there, and a bunch of things, I'm not going to get into details. That's a bunch of details. A bunch of things led up to me feeling this swell of energy. Like, it was growing, and I know, like, when it switches to almost kind of like, I can feel like a slow ignition in my chest. I'm like, okay, no, I need to go. I know that sign. I know myself. That means I need to go, because I'm going to say something, or I'm going to do something that is not in the best interest. So every time I was trying to go, people would stop me and, hey, can you help me with this? Or, hey, can we get these drinks? Or, hey, and I was just like, I'm like in my head, like, bitch, I'm trying to fucking go. So I ended up, I told the coworkers, like, hey, I got a trans. She's like, you can't leave yet. She was like, I still got a case. I'm like, no, if I don't leave here, I'm not coming back. I didn't know I was going to quit right then and there. But
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta go. So the manager, he was like, Thad, you can't go. He was like, we're busy. But once I'm in that state, that's when words
it's like, go ahead, full bore.
Right? So I was just like, no, I was like, in my head, I'm like, no, can't means that I have a gun to my head or I'm chained down here. So since I have neither of those things happening, that means I can fucking go. And I got my shit and I left and I walked out and I clocked out. And I was feeling like my chest was just like going crazy. So I was like, okay, you know what? Drive calmly, get to park, research what's going on. I called a friend who I counsel with. I told her what was going on. I was like, bro, I think I need to quit because the very thought of me going back to my job is making my chest like feel very like
right.
Never felt this before. Long story short, meditated and I was because like you said, are you sure? I had to meditate. I'm like, wait, let me ask my heart this now. I had to go to my center, which we said earlier, guys. The center is very important in these life moments. So
it's everything.
It's everything. Yes. Went to my center and I said, okay, I get you're reacting to work, but I was like, let me just ask, was this a today thing? Were you just having a moment today?
Right? Like, are you going to play games with me right now?
Right? Like, do you need a break?
I'm counting on you.
Right? Like, bro, like I need to know. Like, and my heart was very clear. No, you need to go. Right. You can't do it anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, that's nice, but I have other stuff. And my heart was like, as soon as before I could finish the thought, my heart was like, as you do this, the opportunities are about to emerge. I was like, okay, I trust you. You never steered me wrong. It's 26 years now of listening. Okay.
Yep.
Got me good. And I let them know. I text the manager, text the other manager, and whatnot. And to be honest, Kayla, I feel so freaking good. And
good. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, like like I said, a tad, like a 2% of nervousness because I'm like, I don't know.
Of course, I mean, this is gonna change your life forever,
Right? So I do, but I feel so relieved. I feel so good.
Like this is so right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to share that whole story with everybody because you said environment. Because that environment of working was really killing me, like when it came to coming home and to wanting to put all of that energy into my business. And I'm just like, man, I am working so hard at this place.
That's something that is so not purposeful when I could be doing something that's for many other people that serves my heart, and serves the world. Right. So, totally understand.
By the way, guys, you should know Kayla's we're part of this tribe thing. It's just like we just know that she's part of the tribe.
They really missed out the last time we talked.
They really did. They really missed out. We're blessing them now. We're giving them something.
Right? Yeah.
We're making up for it. So, okay. So that was the environment. Now, I want to. Okay, so there's one thing I want to go on. And then I know I said mental health, but before that, because you just brought it up, they missed out. We had a great talk about authenticity.
Yes.
I want you to share just your thoughts on authenticity, why it's important and whatnot.
Sure.
Go for it.
I think authenticity is, as every area in growth, I think it's inherently a developmental process. And it's really about becoming the person that you're created to be. And the thing about it is that you can stay kind, you can stay committed to everything that you love in your life. You can commit to love and you can be free in your authenticity. And I think that's what people love about it, is that you're free to be you with no exceptions and no boundaries, no limits. You're just you, no matter what anybody says or they doubt you and your worth or the beauty of your truth. You just get to keep being you. And I think authenticity is a collection of choices that we all have to make every single day. And it's about the choice to show up, be real, have vulnerability, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. Because we can't just ignore our past, and we can't keep it away because we know it's a dark, scary, vulnerable place, because you can't heal from that of which you run from. And I think a big part of healing happens when we learn from it. We're able to realize there was a deeper meaning to what happened, and it helps us to let go, and it helps us to help somebody else, as we've been talking a lot about, because mistakes are lessons. And I always encourage people to make your mess your message, because by sharing your experiences, your true authentic self with other people, you are able to reverse engineer what you did right, and you give people an indication on how things have worked for us. Because when you're brave enough to be vulnerable, when you're brave enough to be yourself, when you're able to be authentic, it can truly save somebody from feeling alone to feeling understood. And I think relatability is such a crucial emotion that humans have. And I think it's one of the most underrated emotions that we have, because it's just essential that we have that ability to help, ability to aid. And authenticity is ultimately about those qualities that show a healthy, non-defensive functioning and psychological maturity, really. And I think the qualities that we need to look for are the ability to just be free and not be bound to anybody else's opinion, bound to insecurities within ourselves. And I think authenticity is just as elusive as it is powerful, right? But so many people are still baffled by the notion of how to be authentic. I don't think it's a difficult to come into. I think it's, again, a matter of self-awareness. I think self-awareness runs our life more than we think it does, because by being authentic, that doesn't mean that, I think here's something that's really important, is that when you're authentic, that doesn't mean that you can be held up to a light and you're fully transparent and people can see right through you. But being authentic means that you know yourself so well. You are so heightened in your self-worth and value that you bring, that you're so comfortable being yourself, that it doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter what toxic environment you are. You can just be you, and people can either love it or they don't. And that's really doesn't have anything to do with you. So I think authenticity is just that ability to come into your true self and enthralled and enveloped with humility and empathy and gratitude and self-awareness and perspective. And I mean, all these wonderful things, but it's really important to take that step of finding that authenticity within, because the most sure way to achieve that authentic ability to have self-love and self-respect and self-worth is that willingness to take full responsibility of your life. That willingness is really the source of and the root of self-respect. So to me, that's really what authenticity means. It's just that ability to be you regardless.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I have a question with it, because I want to know if you experienced it like myself. Did you have, and I'm sure you have, but I'm just going to ask you this.
Okay.
Have you had difficulties being your authentic self? And also, do you still slightly, not majorly, like when I say slightly, like 5%,
Sure,
struggle with it to this day?
of course, the first question, of course, in the past, 18 years living for other people, I didn't have an identity, or at the least it was so far deep in my core that I didn't even know it existed. So I definitely was not even able, I didn't even have an understanding of authenticity and what that meant for me and my life. So I definitely struggled with it then. And as I've gone through this growth journey, it's definitely better. I definitely feel like I can be me, and that's great. But of course, there are those moments where I shift a little bit. Of course, it all comes down to that environment.
Right.
Because it's when you're able to recognize that the environment that you're in alludes to the mindset that you're going to have. And when that environment is toxic, when that environment is negative, when that environment is doubtful and critical, you begin to, that's what your mind is being fed in that moment. And so there are definitely times where the more I find now that the more the negative the situation is, or the environment is around me, or the words that are being said to me, I definitely become enthralled with negativity, and I'm still trying to combat that negativity with like everything I've come to learn and be wise about. But it's hard. We're humans, it's not like it's always going to be perfect. But I've definitely found that I'm more willing to be myself, because I just don't care about other people's opinions nearly as much, because I know my worth. I have such a deep level of self-respect and self-awareness for myself, because I didn't for so long, and I never, again, it's that maintenance of growth. I never ever want to go back there. And so I think when I get into those points where I feel unable to be fully myself, I need to be accountable for that, and I need to be aware of that so that I can keep growing and keep ensuring that I want to get to a point where no matter the situation, no matter the environment, that it doesn't affect my inability to be me. But of course, I think that's going to happen every once in a while. And it's just that persistence, that discipline of just who cares, just be you, because you're the only version of you that has ever lived, that ever will live. And so why not just be willing to be you and be authentic in that version, and not worry about the outside. But sometimes I do, and I acknowledge it, and I think that's the most important thing you can do. Is if it's going to hurt you, or if it's going to come into your mind in any way, acknowledge it's there. Don't numb yourself to it. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to block it out like it's not happening. It is happening. And when it does, I go home and I identify it, and I ask myself questions, and I, like in our fake consultancy, I take steps to do better. If I use the implementation intention system, and that's where you say, if something happened, like you put a result to an action, and then you get like a an answer to it. So you could say, this can be for positive and negative. So you could say, if I get into an environment where I feel like my authenticity is being like completely just destroyed, I will own up and just be me. And or I will, if this is happening, then I will decide that this is not about them, this is about me, and I want to be myself. And even when I go into these situations where I feel like I'm going to be nervous, I'll say, like, if I go into a situation that I'm going to be uncomfortable, or I'm going out of my comfort zone, then I will honor those feelings, but realize that I'm not only living for myself. Of course, for the people, I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this to maybe help somebody else, or maybe my words can inspire someone else, or, so it's like that ability to recognize there's a problem, but putting and executing with intent to get a different result, changing the formula. That's what I do. That's what I commit my life to in growth. You have to change yourself every single day to get a better result, and to just continue to be different and better no matter the circumstances.
Powerful. I love it. You guys are being blessed here. Okay, you're being blessed. He is amazing. Okay. See, thank you.
Sure, thanks.
You're amazing. Okay. Let's get on to mental health. And I know, like, for me, because I obviously you're the major in this, so for me, like with my understanding of mental health is just like I like to keep things simple. So like making sure like
Yep.
your mental state is just like on point and there's nothing that's like messing it up or hindering it or
Yep.
if there's some things that you're probably not facing or there's some environmental stuff, like there's a lot of factors I feel like can affect the
Yeah.
mental health. You can obviously correct me if I'm wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like when it comes to your mental health, you really want to make sure that's on point, like making sure nothing
The
is
biggest
driving.
priority. Yeah.
Yes, like I feel like that should be like you said, the biggest priority, and then you can work with other stuff because you
Yep.
need your mental space. Like your mental helps you. It does so much. Like putting
Yeah,
stuff
I
together.
know.
It's a lot. Like it's funny because I'm big on it because there's this thing that people say, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose my mind. And I always tell people, and it's funny when they laugh at me when I say it, but they're like, oh man, and she's about to make me lose my mind. I was like, you don't want to lose your mind.
Yep.
That's a hard thing to find once lost. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, like it's a really big deal. And I will say though, I would say my handicap with it is that I would say I was kind of just privileged enough to just kind of be aware of my stuff and keeping myself on
Oh
point
yeah.
and the environments that I was around to witness what's good, what's not good. But
Mm-hmm.
for someone else who isn't really exposed to mental health, like on the capacity that you are aware, like how would you introduce them into that, like to be aware, like what, you know, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think uh, your mental health, if you really didn't have that, that struggle in your life and you didn't really get it, I think your mental health is really when it's that struggle of, well, I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, right?
Right,
um
right.
for me, I guess I can only talk about my experience.
Yeah.
But my mental health journey has been because of a disorder called generalized anxiety disorder. So it's a state of worry and panic. And so a lot of mental health, a lot of times where reasons why mental health is such a problem is because of people's anxiety, or I know anxiety and depression are like on the leaderboard. Of course, there's hundreds of others, but mental health is just that almost that I always equate it to just that suffocation, that suffocating feeling of like you almost feel like you're out of control, almost like you're spiraling. At least that's my journey with it. That's been my hardship with it, is that when I first realized that, like, oh, there's something wrong with, not wrong, I mean, well, I guess wrong with like the way my mind functions, where people aren't worried about small things that I am. Because with generalized anxiety disorder, you're able to really convince yourself of anything and worry about it, like worry about it in ways that are like ridiculous. And one of those most prominent experiences was I I just always had this fear of um, my health. My health is the big trigger, and I had heard about this one disease, and I don't even remember what it was, but I had heard about this disease at school when I was in 6th grade. And I went home and I was like panicked. Like I was in panic mode. I couldn't focus. I'm very naturally good at school and I go above and beyond, and I like would do anything to get an A+. I would cry if I got an A-.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, I can't do schoolwork right now. I'm like, I'm panicking about this disease. And my mom, she's somebody who doesn't have any experience with mental health. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand it. My dad doesn't understand it. Or at least not to the degree that, like you or I have experience and any others. And I said, I'm just like fully panicking about this disease. And she was like, well, it's not going to happen to you. Like, why are you so worried? And I was like, because it is going to happen to me. Like, I was so convinced. It's that suffocating feeling that your mind is going out of control and you have lost, like the steering wheel flew off and it's like miles away and you have no idea where it is, and you're going, the gas pedal is just hit and you're just spiraling. And to me, and that journey was so hard to understand and so frustrating, because even now when I have those bouts of anxiety, I say to myself, like, what are you worrying about right now? And I'll say, like, oh, I'm worried about this and this going wrong, or this happening, or this person not doing this, or like I worry about the stupidest things. And I can recognize that they're never going to happen and I'm fine. I can literally say to myself, you're fine. But in 2 minutes, when I lose that motivation and that happiness, they're like, oh yeah, I am fine. When I lose that, it's like it spirals even more, and I just keep suffocating. And so mental health to me is just almost those bouts of where you feel like you can't go on, or you're feeling like you can't understand yourself, and you're losing control of your mind, and you're feeling like this tightening in your stomach and in your chest that you can't explain, because if you don't experience it, nobody gets it. But mental health is just, to me, when you're almost losing a battle that you feel like you can never win. And at least that's how I felt for so long. And that's why I had such a difficult time in 2017 with my mental health, because I wasn't doing anything to fix it, because I had gotten into, it's actually a brain process. It's called neuronal mirroring. And it's when you start processing thoughts negatively or positively, whatever thought processes you're having, your neurons begin to fire together in that thought. So those negative behaviors, or positive again, but they start firing together. And the more that you keep stoking that fire with negativity, they start wiring together, and they start creating permanent connections and permanent bonds. And I was really, really deep into that. I felt like all of my neurotransmitters were negative and bonded together and were never going to come out. But it just takes so much work to get out of those bouts of anxiety. And when you don't have coping methods, and when you don't have, community, and you don't have ways to come out, they can be long. 2017 was hard. And it wasn't until I got into a really bad fight with a friend because I was being a jerk, because I was an awful person, because my mental health was so bad. I was so suffocated. I was so unhappy. And I allowed that to justify my behavior towards my friends, and being cruel to them, and being rude, and using humor at other people's expense, because it was those one moments of laughter that, kept me away from anxiety. And I wasn't until one of my other friends had messaged me this huge paragraph basically telling me I was a literal piece of crap for everything I was saying to this person. And it wasn't until that moment where I realized, you're awful and you need to figure your life out. And I literally had gotten on my knees that night. It was January 17th. And I said, I don't know who I'm praying to, but I need to change. I need to grow. And that morning I woke up, the next morning, January 18th, 2018. And I woke up and it was 7:29 and I fell down the stairs, and that's when I broke my leg. And God. I literally think that breaking my leg was the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it almost made me, I always credit it that it's like, how people always say they wish they had a second chance of life. Yeah. I feel like that was my second chance. I felt like I feel like I got like pushed down the stairs by like this energy, this spirit, and my life got put on pause, and I was able to get my crap together, and I was able to fix myself, and I was able to really become who I am today, who you're listening to today. And then when I got my crap together in July, when I had grown and I really knew myself, my life hit play again. And I was able to grow and become this version of me. And that's my journey with mental health it's always been a suffocating feeling, and I never knew how to come out for air. But it wasn't until I realized, like, you have the choice and you have the control and you have the need of discipline. And when you get those things and you change your life, then you can experience greatness in a whole other scale. So I don't know. I think that's my experience with it. Mental health is just hard. It's hard to understand if you have never been exposed to it. But, and I hope that you never have to, but if you do, you know that it's just that feeling of like, what is actually happening right now and why can't I control it? But you can. It's just, you have to strengthen your mind.
That is powerful. And I must say, like, oof, like that made me just like sit down and just like, wow, like did you introduce me to just a whole different perspective? Because one, we talked, I think, today or whatnot, about like the severity of like you breaking your leg, and guys, she, like, break her leg, like, oh, she fell down the stairs, oh my god, she's gonna be like, tell them like the severity of that leg, like because I was very like, oh my god, and I'm not the type of not like that, but like just for a minute, tell the severity of that leg broken, like tell them.
So I like to keep my room really cold, and I was going down barefoot, and so my feet were so slippery, but I didn't recognize, like I didn't know, I didn't care. So I was going down the stairs just pretty fast, like I just run down them, and I slip on a sock, and I don't even remember this, but I'm slipping, and I can feel myself in the air. The next thing I know, I like plow into the wall, and I can immediately feel my leg is like numb and something's going on. And I look down and I'm watching my leg grow like huge. My ankle turned into like a watermelon, and it was crazy. And I looked at my dog. He's like a little Yorkie, and I said, like, oh my god, this is serious. And of course I was like, oh my god, I just did something not good. And I was home alone, and the first time in my whole life I leave my phone upstairs, so I have no way to call anybody. So I get on my knees and I crawl like 12 feet into the kitchen, and I have the newest MacBook, thank God, so I can call on the MacBook, and I can call my mom, and then we call the ambulance, whatever. And I actually ended up on impact breaking the fibula in half, and it completely tore all these ligaments, and two on one in between the fibula and tibia, one behind the fibula, and then another one on the other side of my foot. And I completely dislocated it, and it was just a mess. And I've had a few surgeries, and I have these plates and screws in my leg, and it's just been a journey. But it was crazy, but it's like the best thing that ever happened to me.
So now you guys get the severity of that leg. So that spirit, they made sure she got what she prayed for or something, because oh my gosh, that is
right. Like that was crazy.
Oh man, well, I'm glad. And by the way, she's able to walk perfectly fine now.
Perfectly.
Yeah,
amazing.
She's good. She's good.
I almost think that it's stronger than my other leg because there's so much support now. It's amazing.
Oh my God. But what we were saying, guys, is that if you need to get your mental, like, do not.
Yep.
Yeah, don't go down the stairs, like, you know.
Yeah, no.
The way should be
not.
different.
I'm not prescribing that.
Yeah, she's not prescribing that, so please don't do that. Like, but you know, you got a story there. Like, wow, that is powerful. But again, like with the mental health, like, I feel like that I'm glad you shared, because now I'm able to understand it to a degree of, you know, someone who's like experiencing it and
right.
You know, going through it. Because for me, I just know, like, sorry, I don't know why my phone just picked up.
It's okay. It happens all the time to me.
weird. Like, why are you talking Siri? Anyways, yeah, so that's just like interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Just with that, because I'm so used to, in my world, mental health is just like anything that affects me mentally, that's just a no-no. We're just not going to do that. So
Yeah.
I just end it. But like to the degree that you shared, it's just wow, wow. That is
Yeah, I know. It's a lot.
that is, and I gotta make sure we're looking at the time because I think we're like over an hour, which is cool.
Oh yeah, we're well over an hour.
Yeah, I don't even know the number, but we're over that. Okay, so I guess we should kind of start wrapping it up. I know these people are like, oh my gosh, I love it, but I don't care. Like y'all gonna hear this. We're blessing, okay? But okay, so I want to ask, like, what's a fun fact about yourself?
Oh gosh.
Yes,
Like anything?
anything.
Um, Gee, I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta think.
Uh, I think a fun fact about me is that I well, a fun fact about me is that I guess I always I geez, I guess that this is just such a fun question.
Kayla, you just shared that with the people. You have to know yourself and learn and identify. Come on.
I
No,
know.
right? It's weird. We can answer deep questions, but when it's about ourselves, it is simple. It's like, wait, what?
Oh no, I know. It's like these simple questions like, wait, what?
What? Like,
So
what?
dumb, I'm such an idiot. Um I think a fun fact about me is that this is something that drives me nuts about myself, but I one time when I a fun fact about me is that when I was super little, I was like 7, I guess, and I I got my ears pierced, and and then like I literally the next day, my mom was like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, mom." Like, duh. Hello, I'm a girl. I want to get my ears pierced. And the next day, I literally woke up and the piercing was gone, but it like wasn't around me. This was the first time I realized, like, I think this was the first time where like my anxiety really began because it had to do with my health, of course. I don't know what is wrong with me, but I I started feeling in my ear, and I was like, "Mom, like my ear ate my earring." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No, for real. Like, there's something in my ear." And I could feel like myself getting tense. You know that like anxiety feeling, you know? And I mean, I'm like little, and she's like, "Kayla, you're such a liar. Like, you literally it did not eat your earring." And literally, no kidding, my freaking ear, like the earring just was I guess was so small that my ear like it like the skin grew over the earring overnight, and I had to like go get that fixed. And that was the moment when I really realized like my anxiety was so heightened in those experiences, and I really learned that just like I guess that was a moment where I really realized that there's so many solutions to our problems, because I was like dead set on like I'm not going to be okay, like I'm going to get poisoned in my ear. I mean, the anxiety is so real forever in my life. And you know, I think people don't realize like anxiety starts so young and mental health starts so young, and those were moments where I really felt like I'm not going to be okay, I'm going to die, like I was so worried about these stupid things. And I think it was just a moment, was like, you're going to be fine, and you're going to get it taken care of, and there's going to be a solution. And so I know that fun fact is like so bizarre, but it really was like a moment where I realized like there's so many solutions to our problems. Especially with somebody with anxiety, if there's someone out there listening that has that anxiety, just know, like, you're going to be good. You know, there's going to be light. You're going to come out of it. You're going to be fine. And you don't have to, I mean, I panicked for days about it. And even when it was out, and even when I like couldn't get it out, I just didn't think it was going to be okay. And like the most important thing I ever want anyone to take away is that, like, there are solutions, even if it's a medical solution, even if it's a mental solution, like, you're going to be good. And even when it's dark now, like, that was a really dark moment to me when I was little, and just realizing, like, no matter how scary or how tough it is or how hard, like, you're going to be fine. And I think that's something so important to take away, and definitely something that I wish I would have reiterated a lot more as I grew up in my adolescence and now, and all, you know, every stage of my life. But that was a moment in my life where I just really had to trust and have just faith that everything would be okay, and just know that if you meet life with solutions instead of complaining about the problem, then life is going to be a lot better for you. And I think that is important now for anybody listening, that instead of basking in what's wrong and what's hard and how difficult the problem is, like, there was a story that said, I don't care if there's a building on fire. I don't want you to come and say the building's on fire. I want you to come to me and say, listen, the building's on fire, but everybody's out, and we got the safe, and we got the fire department on the way. And, you know, finding those solutions to those problems is critical. And that was a big moment for me in my life, even though it was ridiculous and unheard of. I mean, it just is important. It was that moment where I realized, like, there are so many solutions, even if you don't think so in that moment.
Wow. Just, I love how you said that. Like, don't come to me like, I can, like, it's just how you said about the building on fire part. Like,
Yeah.
I can totally see myself being that person where someone's like, oh my gosh, the building's on fire. And I'm that person that immediately thinks, okay, is everybody out? Did we call 911? Did you just run to me and not do nothing first? Like, okay, so this time, so literally you just had me think about it. Everything else, and I just thought about it. So,
yeah.
Hey, well, I mean, with that being said, I guess we could wrap up the podcast here, because that was amazing. Like, these people, y'all gonna have to replay this podcast because she gave so much information.
I know. I just turned like a fun, simple fact into like a life.
But I like that.
I'm sorry, I'm so annoying.
No, but I like that because you know how we said it earlier. Well, before this, we talked. You don't like surface level stuff, like,
right.
You know, remember the cat thing?
That was hard. I was like really struggling.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Like, as long as you didn't say you like cats that are black, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's weird. You know, let's go deeper. But anyway, you might.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing is I'm taking. Okay, like I said, I'm taking the advice a friend suggested. So for the Tuesday podcast, we're gonna leave you guys with something, an exercise. So I would say on my end, something for you guys to work on, or an exercise to give you, is find someone who's in the same arena as the dream you're pursuing and connect with them, because you never know what could happen. And
awesome.
I had to share that one because me and Kayla are in the same arena of stuff. And here we are. We both have our own podcast, which I'm going to tag her information in as well in the descriptions and whatnot. But she has her own podcast, like you just heard, like she's for the people and things like that. Yes. So you never know what could come up. But that is an exercise from me. What do you have anything you want to give them or exercise?
I would say, just because this is so something that I have done for consecutively for a year and a half, I would say for you listening, I would try to find some time whether it's this week or at least in the weekend, to ask yourself and be really, really honest with yourself. These just 3 questions. And I would say that the first question would be, do the people closest to you tell you what you want to hear, or do they tell you what you need to hear? The next question I would ask yourself, and be very honest, is how do you feel when someone you know succeeds? And the last question I would ask yourself is, what character traits do you love absolutely unconditionally about yourself? I think those 3 questions will provide answers that will really open up your mentality. And if you are in a state of mind where you need to grow and you have things that you need to work on, that maybe they would reveal something very important for your journey to commence. So that's what I would say.
Damn, that's powerful. Okay, I should skip mine and like do hers because
Just stop.
I'm just saying because you got me thinking here. So I'm gonna answer for myself and then we'll end it. But the first one, God dang it, you said okay. So with does your friends tell you what you want to hear? God damn it, my friends, I wish they would tell me what I wanted to hear, but they don't. They tell me this truth, and I sometimes like those other efforts they're too blunt and honest. Like my friends will destroy my feelings and not give a damn, but it's from a source of love. But I'm like, guys,
it's so important.
It is, but it's just like I asked them like, okay, guys, I asked you a question. I was on level 5. You brought it to level 20. Can you just bring it back to level 40? Matter of fact, just
you guys
lie
just
to
be
me,
nice for once.
right? Like they're like, no, like, and they use strong words too. So
right.
Yeah. That shows a lot about myself. But okay. Second question was, how do I feel, or how do you feel when those around you succeed? I feel very happy. No, sorry. I feel very proud and then very happy.
Yeah, me too.
I love it. I love seeing people succeed, and God forbid it's one of my friends who took forever to succeed, but that's a whole other story. But I love that, and it makes me happy. It makes me very proud.
Yeah.
I want to, like, when they do something or they succeed, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we need to celebrate. Like, let's do this, let's do that. And they, whatever. So it really makes me feel very happy and very proud to just say, wow, like, I'm waiting.
Because you never know, like, who are you to be the judge of, who gets to succeed? And you don't know what people go through in their preparation season in order to harvest. And just being negative to someone who is in a moment of so much happiness, it's like, how can you be anything but joyful for them? But if you do answer that question and say, like, I am envious and I get a little upset, then that's okay, because that exposes some insecurities and you have potential to grow. Don't be intimidated by how Thad and I are answering. We've just grown a lot. We've learned to be excited. But it's okay if you're not, but be truthful, because you can't lie. Like that you're going to be exposed.
Yeah, like for real. Like she just said, like these are the answers from people who've grown. But I could go back and tell you the old me would have been like,
oh yeah, I'm like,
damn,
you
like
jerk, right? Like you don't deserve it. Like no, like
I would have,
do.
Right? Like I would be like, oh, you succeeded, okay, and why are you telling me? Like I don't care. That was the old me. But it's like again, so. That I would have been, if someone asked me that would have caused me to actually look at myself like, okay, interesting.
It unveils so much.
It really does. I'm so glad I'm exposing myself. And what's the last one is the character trait that you love.
Yeah.
Yourself the most. I don't mean to sound cocky, but it's so many that I love.
Be authentic.
I know, right? I'm being authentic. Like there's so many of my which characteristic or trait that I have. I would definitely say the character trait I have is, Dang, there's so many coming up. All right, I'm just gonna pick one out of the ones that I like. I'm going to gosh, because I want to say two, but I'm gonna go with one. I'm gonna go with
Sure.
the understanding trait.
Yeah,
Like
that's
I
really awesome.
yeah, I can be because I'm the type I seek first understanding to all situations, like because sometimes you have to put that first before a response or a reaction. Like so a lot of people will tell me different things. Like I actually had this thought today. And this is y'all know me. I can go there and come back. But like I
Yeah.
had this thought where it's, if someone was to come up to you and say like, or you see something on the news that a person killed someone. People are like, oh my gosh, that person's horrible. That person says blah blah blah. But my first, honestly, the first thought is, I wonder why. What led?
Literally, I'm literally not kidding. That is me.
Yeah, like
I'm like, wait, but what could have made someone want to do something that crazy, like
exactly.
taking somebody's life off the earth? Like, that's heavy. Like, why would they want to do that?
Yes,
It's like, I'm so
facts.
empathetic to the family who's mourning, but what can cause someone to get to that? Is it mental illness? Is it just, you know, sociopath? Like, what is it that's causing these people to take people's lives? So I
Yeah.
totally understand.
Yeah, that's me. I have to seek understanding because people will
Yeah,
tell me certain things, and I'm like, okay, but what got you here? Because
right.
a person could be like, oh my gosh, that person's horrible, they need to die, but it's like, do you know like what? Like seek to understand like first. So I would say
Absolutely.
that would be a trait I would definitely say because some days
Yeah,
I
it's
don't want
so
to.
good to have.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. Okay. Wow. See, exposure. That's I should give people heads up. Like when you get on the Connect 007 podcast, you will be exposing yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Well, I guess we could wrap that up there, guys.
All
Like
right.
gave you guys some stuff, and there you go. So with that being said, you guys.